I've posted here once before, and I hadn't really remembered anything I considered creepy enough to post here until recently, when I checked my other folder in my Facebook inbox. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but I apologise in advance if I get a little wordy. I'm 23, a woman, and pretty tall. Tall enough that I often feel more intimidating than attractive. I've been reluctant to share this because I feel like I'm smart enough to have avoided it, but it's frightening to me because he still feels compelled to contact me. Marked not safe for work for language. Last summer, after graduating from college, I moved to a new town about 3 hours from home. I had a few acquaintances here, but no one that I really considered a friend, and was in the middle of a very sexually active phase of my life. I was on OkCupid, more in an attempt to find like-minded, i.e. stoner, friends in the area than anything else. But I had little success in the month or so leading up to my move. During my first week of work, however, I got a message from a guy who seemed relatively intelligent, had good taste in music, a big plus for me, and was willing to hold a conversation that didn't verge into the creepy or blatantly sexual after 5 minutes. We continued sending messages to each other nightly, but I never felt like he was coming on too strong or anything. After a week, he invited me out for pizza. He is from the same area and seemed to know more local spots, and I love pizza, so I agreed and asked for his number so it would be easier to coordinate our meetup. I can't exactly remember the timeline of our meeting, or why we didn't end up getting pizza initially, but our actual first encounter took place after a concert for some local bands. I had seen posts about an event on Facebook and, though I didn't mind going alone, thought it would be nice to have some company. I texted the guy, who I'll refer to as Bill from here on out, and told him if he wasn't busy, he should come watch too. I got to the venue a little early, and was chatting with some of my acquaintances when I noticed someone looking at me from behind a bookshelf. At the time, it was a bookstore moonlighting as a venue. Now it's just a venue. He was in an orange button-down, tucked into jeans, and wearing very clean work boots. And anyone who actually needs books like that wouldn't bother to keep them this clean. Just sort of walking back and forth across the store with his head down. I finally saw his face and realized that this was the guy. This was Bill. He was about 6.5 inches shorter than me, and much, much thinner than his profile picture had led me to believe. But we had had nice conversations, and I try not to let first impressions weigh too heavily on my perceptions of people. So I walked up to him and said, "Hi, are you Bill? I'm Secret Agent X9," and held out my hand for him to shake. We sat at the back of the venue, talking about his job for a little while, and midway through the music I was feeling restless, and asked if he wanted to go for a walk. He said yes, and so we walked out into the night, and onto the main street. Or the main street for bars, at least. Ended up sitting in the grass somewhere near the university campus for a while, kissed a little, and headed back to the music where I was parked. I wasn't looking for a serious relationship, and had made that clear both online and in person, but I am flirtatious and non-confrontational by nature. At this point in my life I was so lonely, and I would go along with just about anything that didn't put me directly in harm's way. Just to put things in some sort of perspective. He asked me if we were still on for a pizza date, and although I was hesitant to go on a second date, I was also kind of desperate for companionship. We went out for pizza, and he ended up making a lot of stupid, flippant comments about our servers, which was the first red flag for me. I honestly can't remember the exact content of our conversation, just that he made a few subtly racist, subtly anti-feminist remarks that were enough to obliterate any interest I had left. We ate in relative silence, and since I had genuinely forgotten my wallet, he paid the tab, and left a 10% tip. Another red flag. He had picked me up, unfortunately, so when he dropped me off at my house, he essentially invited himself in. I had told him that I smoked while we were at dinner, and he said that he had friends who did, but that it had never been his thing. That's fine. But when I get home for the night, I want to smoke, so I rolled a spliff and smoked it while some movie played, something I'd rented from the library because I didn't have internet yet. And once I was high, he just got that much weirder. He went to the bathroom, and when he came back, sat next to me on the couch, pulled my legs onto his lap and said, "Can you feel it?" I just laughed as if I thought he was joking, but A, no, I couldn't feel his baby dick. And B, who the fuck says that as a way to potentially initiate sex? Also important, I happened to be wearing thick-knit, thigh-high socks at the time. I kept dropping hints that I needed to get to sleep, as I had work at 8 the next morning, but he apparently wanted to finish whatever movie I had started. So, stoned, uncomfortable, and exhausted, I went to my bedroom and shut the door. Not the smartest idea, I know. But I really didn't know what else to do, and just assumed he would take the hint and leave. I had been drifting in and out for a while, but wasn't letting myself fall asleep until I heard the front door close, so I could get up and lock it for the night. The movie was over, and I was listening intently for sounds of him leaving. It was a one-bedroom apartment, so there was just a thin wall between us. When my door opened just a crack, I closed my eyes really quickly, but peeked through the slits in my eyelids to see Bill just standing there, watching me sleep. I thank all the deities that he didn't try to come in and touch me, and after a few minutes, I heard the front door open and shut. I locked the door, pulled the blinds, and went to bed feeling skeeved out but no worse for wear. Over the next few weeks, I basically dropped out of our conversations. I kept my replies concise, and only responded to every fourth or fifth text. I let him know that I wasn't looking for a relationship, that I was sorry he'd felt I'd led him on, and that I appreciated his myriad music suggestions. I tried to be civil. About a month after the last time I saw him, after I ignored a few of his "How are you?" texts, he sent me a total barrage of messages, calling me a cheap whore, stuck-up bitch, whatever. I ignored those too, and he sent one more, which is the most chilling and disgusting text I have received in recent memory. It said, "Now I'll never get to smell your dirty feet in those long blue socks." I blocked his number and thought that I was done with it. He continued to send me messages on Facebook, though we were not friends, insulting me for my job, the school I graduated from, whatever info he could pull from my public profile, basically. So I blocked him there too. I deleted my OkCupid account not long after, thanks to Tinder, and honestly completely forgot about him by this time last year. Not even 4 months after we'd met. That changed when I opened up my Facebook inbox on a desktop and clicked on my filtered messages folder. I've tried to upload the screenshot to Imager, but it's giving me fits, so here's what it says. Message from Sam Tobin, 9/7. So were you really a feminist, or is that just a meme? Message from Sam Tobin, 9/13. Definitely a meme. I still want to buy your socks though. I don't know anyone named Sam Tobin, but I do recall rejecting a friend request from someone with that name and no profile picture. I can't be 100% sure it's Bill, but who the fuck else is that obsessed with dirty socks after more than a year has passed? It's actually been really nice to get this all out in long form, just to have it off my chest. I do think he's the type to troll Reddit though, so hopefully he doesn't see this, become furious, and try to chop off my feet as souvenirs of his rage. So Bill, let's not fucking meet ever again. So after lurking for a while, I've decided to go ahead and post about something that happened to me around May of 2011. For some background information, I was born and raised in Alaska, Anchorage specifically, and had decided to start my undergrad studies in a small college town in Montana. Anyway, due to many financial pitfalls, my family and I decided that me moving back home and going to school locally would be our best bet. So the academic year wrapped up, and my mom flew down to meet me for our road trip through Canada before re-entering the US on the Alaskan side. Of course, because I had intended on living in Montana for 4 years, there was a lot of junk in my car weighing it down, so I wasn't keen on speeding through unfamiliar roadways. The first day or so was great, My mom and I stopped here and there to do some shopping in a few larger Canadian cities. Overall, we made a point of travelling mostly during daylight hours, but during the early morning and evenings, I usually drove. My mom had eye surgery a year or so before all of this, so her eyesight tends to not be so great at night. So on the third night, I'm driving us to a hotel in Dawson, YT, and things are going fine, but we're a bit behind schedule, and it's getting dark faster than I would have liked. Somewhere after Stewart Crossing, we end up with this absolute asshole tailgating us, with his high beams on. I'm kind of annoyed because I was already going nearly 10 kilometers over the speed limit, so I move to the side and wait for the guy to go around me. I would like to point out that this was a single-lane, two-way road with nearly no traffic. Despite me getting out of the way and waiting for this dickhead to go around, he seems to mimic my movements, staying right behind me as I move almost off the road. By now I begin feeling this heavy, cold feeling in the pit of my gut, and my mom begins panicking. As I've said before, the woman's blind as a bat in the dark, and I was having a fairly hard time making out anything in the mirrors with dumb fuck's high beams blinding me. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a make, model of the vehicle, let alone a license plate number or anything about the driver. This all continued on for a while. I dropped down to the speed limit, sort of putting my foot down and saying, if fuckface wants to speed, he, it could very well have been a woman for all I know, can go around, in a sense. Still, the tailgating and high beaming continued, even as other people passed and flashed their high beams at the jizrag. Maybe we were 10 or so kilometers outside Arlington when things escalated. As we were getting closer to civilization, Arlington at least, my mom told me to just speed up and lose them. The driver suddenly sped up as if sensing that I was now actively fleeing, and attempted to ram us from the rear driver's side. It might have been sheer luck that they missed, or that I accelerated faster than them. As all this was happening, my mom was attempting to get a call through to the emergency services, only neither of our phones had a signal. We have a local carrier, and even in Montana the service was terrible. By now I'm breaking the speed limit by at least 20 kilometers per hour. When the engine behind me revs up, and the vehicle, a large SUV I realize, zipped around us, and suddenly slams their brakes with the vehicle diagonal to us. I slammed my brakes in response and nearly lost control as I drove almost entirely off the road. In the passenger seat my mom was screaming hysterically, but I barely noticed at the time. In front of me I could make out several figures in the SUV, only I wasn't terribly focused on much. All I remember was practically seeing red before shifting into reverse, and hitting the gas before shifting back into drive and speeding forward. I narrowly missed the back end of the SUV in the escape. After that, I wasn't entirely sure what happened. I was speeding off and the vehicle was still following, but further back. As we pulled into Arlington, they disappeared into some side street, and my mom and I debated going to the police. We stopped at the first place with lights on, a hotel, and my mom ran in to use the phone. I waited in the car, trembling from the rush and anxious in case that SUV was still prowling around. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe just some asshole teenagers who don't understand driver etiquette. Or how to drive around someone. Maybe it was some dickish prank. I considered it might have been insurance related. But they seemed more interested in forcing me off the road than making me hit them. In the end, nothing was or could be done by the local police. So my mom and I hurried along to Dawson, alone and slightly paranoid. When we got back, we agreed not to share this with my dad, because he was already controlling and paranoid enough as it is. I suppose his paranoia is not without reason, since if things had gone differently, I might not be here to share this story with you all. I'm a small, petite female, and this happened last year. I'm 22 right now, and this was around the end of March. I was at uni at the time, and due to financial stuff, I had to live with my mum. My uni was 2 hours away by train, and 3 hours away by bus, and usually trains for my uni stopped running around 1 AM. This time we had a very hard assignment from our computer forensics course. It was the last one in the module, and we wanted to do it extra well to secure marks. I was working with my best friend. For some reason, our assignment wasn't working like it should, according to all the slides and documentation we got. It was a hex image of an operating system, and the one our teacher gave us wasn't working, so we winged it and used a sample image. This caused us to finish very late. We used a library on university grounds, which is open 24/7. Some students even sleep there if they can't get back home or have early classes. We finished up at 2 a.m. and headed for the bus. However, my friend asked if it wouldn't be safer if I took an Uber taxi home. In all honesty, I wish I did. But I felt up for a long ride with my music, and I could catch some sleep on the way instead of trying to maintain an awkward conversation with the taxi driver. So I said I was going to be fine. After 20 minutes of waiting, my bus finally came, and I set off towards home. I had to take 3 buses, one to Harrow bus station, one towards Heathrow, and one home. So, conveniently, my phone died halfway through. I had a Sony Xperia Z, and it always died on me. So I fell asleep and woke up just before my stop, as I always did. I got off and the streets were empty. And silly me decides that I was pretty hungry, so I headed off to the only kebab shop that was still open. The guy informed me that they closed in 15 minutes, but he will serve me anyway. It was a small shop, and apart from the guy serving the food, there was only one more guy there. He wore dark clothes and a hoodie, and since I came in, I swear I could feel him staring at me, but not normal staring. I had that feeling all the time, like he was fixated on me, and never took his eyes off me. It made me feel on the very edge and uncomfortable. 10 minutes passed and my food was ready. I tipped the nice guy and thanked him, and set off back to the bus station with my lovely food, and forgot all about the creepy guy. I got to the bus station and my bus was arriving in 20 minutes. I didn't mind, I could eat my food while I waited. The bus station was mostly empty, just 3 other people there. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw this creepy guy from the shop standing behind the announcements board, watching me again. I felt his eyes on me, and I just tried to ignore it and ate my food. I suddenly hoped he will get on another bus, and I will be fine. My bus came and I hurried on. I sat down in the top deck of the bus, and behold, the creepy guy does too. Directly behind me, in such a manner that if I was to take out my phone, he could read everything I say. But my phone was dead, so that's when I started panicking a little, because if something happened, I could not call for help or anything. 20 minutes into the journey, I still felt him staring at me the whole time. I decided to go sit downstairs in the hopes that the small amount of people there would put him off. I went downstairs slowly and sat at the front. There was one guy there who was asleep, and nobody else but the driver. Of course, the creeper moved and sat behind me again. Panic now setting in. How the hell am I going to get home? We finally arrived in Heathrow, and I got off as my bus just pulled up, and I ran to catch it. Well, guess what? So did the creep. My heart sank when it got on, so I again sat down at the front. There was nobody on the bus but us. I contemplated different ways to lose him. Should I just pretend I'm calling my boyfriend on my now dead phone, in such a way he can't see it was dead? Should I just leg it home and if he falls, set my dog on him? So instead of doing any of those ideas that seem the best solutions now that I look at it, no, I stupidly decided to get off like 15 minutes early. Why? My stupid mind thought that I could lose the guy and go back and get the bus home. So dumb me gets off at a stretch of road that has no shops anywhere. Just roads, bus stops, and houses here and there. Also, the creeper gets off too. So now I'm panicking like hell. Now I know he is for sure following me. So I start walking in a random direction. I had no idea about that area at all. I took random roads and turns, and he was following me on each one. So I got lost. Yep, I'm thinking. I'm so done now it's not even funny. But then I see a main road in the distance and decide to leg it. I started running, so did he. He was right behind me, and I tried to run as fast as I could. I was so much faster than him, and a random bus was about to leave. I caught it, got on, and the bus managed to pull out before he could catch it. I was so happy I sat down but had no clue where the bus went, and I was scared the guy might be where I left him. So, I went to the end of that bus line, got a bus back, and took a long detour home. I got home at 7 a.m. It took me 5 long hours to make it safe, but I did. Sorry for the long read. And creepy kebab shop guy? Let's never meet again. Hey guys, and that was episode 8. Thank you very much for listening. All the stories are linked below, so if you get the chance, please click on over and maybe give them an upvote. If of course they haven't been deleted yet, because, well, Let's Not Meet has been making a bit of a habit of that recently. Once again, thanks for listening. Until next time, please take care.